time for the terrible time. What do we call the terrible time?
The final deuce.
Okay. It's the final two questions, and they're toughies. They're doozies, like the deuce. Here we go. Scale of 1 to 10, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, what would you give this first episode of The Umbrella Academy?
I would give this first episode a 7.6. Because that's 0.1 better than 7.5.
Yeah.
That's
definitely. Right. See, Bridget, he understands that I like numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Bridget, what would you give this scale of 1 to 10?
I would give it a 10, and then a pop-up of an extra 10 for all the things they added in the background that I've been
Oh, wow. She loves this show.
I really enjoyed it. I don't have the little figure guy yet, Josh, but I really love it. I think that was a good purchase.
Money well spent. Josh, scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this? Mike's given us 7.6. Bridget went bold and gave it a 10.
Is it allowed? I don't know if this has been done. If I rate my first time watching and then rewatching it now after having seen it all.
I think that's allowed.
Okay, so my first time, 5.4.
Wow.
Today, 9.
Wow.
What the
Quite a jump.
going on anymore?
That's a big jump. Ryan, how big of a jump is that, math guy?
What were the numbers? I already forgot. Oh, 5.4 and 9. That's a 3.6.
Wow.
That's a big jump.
You can see Ryan does love numbers.
Fallingtower.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, now it's your turn to be in the hot seat.
I'm just baffled by how it
hot
could
is
be that
seat?
much better on a second viewing. Okay. Scale of 1 to 10. 6.5. 6.5. If I ever watched a second time, I'll let you know if it jumped or not.
Well, now we're going to find out. Are you going to watch the second?
6.5. Well, let me just say a 6.5 because really the only thing that was just amazing about it was the very end. It makes you go, oh, what? I'm interested now. But for the first 58 minutes, I was like, and I like superhero stuff. But I was very, it was cool. It was fine. It was a little too dark. It was a little too like, aren't you curious now? Don't you want to know what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I wish you would just tell me. Anyway, but for the purposes of this podcast, we had to watch the first episode of Umbrella Academy. Some of us watched it a second time. But now that the podcast is over and you are free to do whatever you want with your lives again, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, would you watch the second?
I would, and I'll tell you exactly why. Is that I'm just dying to know what happens in the future. That destroys everything. They really grabbed me with that last little bit, but I liked the whole first 58 minutes because I was intrigued. I was dragged along by the mystery. I'm not like Ryan where I need to be hit over the head with everything. I enjoyed the unraveling, and I'm looking forward to watching it unravel some more.
Bridget, theoretically speaking, would you watch the second episode?
Theoretically speaking, yes. And probably at that point, I would realize things like this is the only episode in the series where there's no umbrella when they say umbrella tree and Umbrella Academy in the title card. I would notice things like, exactly. That one is any sort of umbrella is used over and over. I would be very happy after watching the second to notice that there's an umbrella-shaped lamp in number 7's apartment. Like, there's all sorts of reasons to love this show. The mystery, the intrigue, the way it drops bombs and then, like, it will explain it later. I think that there's a lot going for the show. So, yeah.
Josh, would you theoretically watch the second episode?
Well, instead of theoretically, I actually, in reality, I will watch it again. I didn't have a great time the first time. I was told that the second season is so much better, and I think and the first season for me really picked up maybe halfway through, and I was like, I don't know. But then like certain things happen, and it's like, okay, now I'm invested, just as you, Ryan, got invested maybe at the very end in the final minute. That things like that would happen for me throughout. And having seen it all and knowing where it goes, I actually am interested in watching it again. And so I am going to watch The Umbrella Academy again. Yes.
All right.
All right.
So now,
I know.
Ryan T. Husk,
Oh, wait, I
for
gotta
the
close my
purposes of this podcast, you were forced by me and Eve England to watch the first episode of The Umbrella Academy. Now, based on your own volition, would you theoretically watch the second?
Based on everything I've heard, based on everything you guys have said, yes, I would. Based on this first episode, no, I would not. What I would do is I would be extremely curious to know, because they gave you that last second little hook that does make me want to watch the second, but probably what I would do is I would like look it up or like ask somebody. I would like ask you guys, I'd be like, so what's the deal? What's the thing? And then if it was interesting, I'd be like, okay, I'll watch the second episode. But if you said, oh, it's just something, and you don't really find out until the middle of the second season, I'd be like, oh, tell me when you get to that part. That sounds terrible. Based on just this episode alone, I probably would not watch the second episode. Although I would be very curious to find out what happened in the second episode. I wouldn't want to sit through, this dreary, to quote George Costanza, thing that insists upon itself.
Oh my God. That was actually Peter Griffin.
Oh, is that what? Okay, same thing. Yeah,
Peter Griffin said that the Godfather insists upon itself.
Yeah, that's what it was. What does that mean? And it insists upon. Okay. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to upset you
Ryan
guys.
loves to just bring everybody down. All of our moods just kind of collectively went like this.
Me at the start of this episode. Me at the end of this episode.
I mean, I want to know what happens in the second episode. I just don't know if I want
Then
to.
you have to
Nobody
watch it.
tell him. Don't leave it in the comments. Nobody tell him. Make that man work for himself.
Then I
I'll
will
give
end
you
up
a
watching
blank
it, maybe.
flowchart. Mm-hmm.
Blank flowchart.
Yeah, and
Just
everybody
feel good about
delete it from Wikipedia. Make sure that it doesn't show up anywhere online.
Mhm.
Umbrellapedia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's funny. Oh, yeah. That's clever.
Thank you, Josh.
Ryan is a master with words, not just
Yeah.
numbers. His wordplay, it always impresses me.
Thank you. Please continue.
Yes, I look forward to the next time we get lunch together.
Oh, good.
Factory, like we sometimes do.
We meet at the Cheesecake Factory in Sherman Oaks, guys. So anyway, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a great time. My blinds are shining sunlight on me.
And Cheesecake Factory, if you want to sponsor the next episode where Ryan and I eat and have a wonderful time while we discuss Fallingtower.
And I'm left out again.
Yeah, well, we're still going to include the P.O. box, our Fallingtower P.O. box in the description box below, so you could send us a cheesecake.
Yeah, are we going to do that?
Anyway.
A factory-made cheesecake or otherwise, all cheesecakes are welcome.
Thank you.
Especially vegan cheesecakes and none others for me.
How long have you been vegan?
I actually do eat fish, so that's my one thing that, but otherwise, 3 or 4
fact
years,
check,
yeah.
that's not vegan.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
Yeah, I started eating fish again, so sorry, vegans, but besides that, I don't eat any dairy, so that's why I usually say vegan, because people know what that means.
Right. No egg, too. All right. How do we end this thing? Oh, yes, we had talked about this podcast. So, boy, oh boy, this podcast was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
This podcast was magic and mystery.
This podcast was, Ah.
This podcast was interesting and fun.
All right.
But seriously, guys, thanks very much for joining us. This has been a great time. It was a lot of fun. We laughed a lot. We made a solid friendship connection. Everything's going to be great. Mike and I are following each other. Josh and Bridget are going to be the next Regis and Ryan and Kelly now, I think is what it is.
Sure.
Anyway, I didn't forget anything, did I, Mike?
No, just we already said plenty of times to like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell icon. So I guess there's only one thing left to say.
Yeah, make sure to comment below too. Give us lots of comments. What's the last thing left to say? You're the best saying in the world that you say?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my favorite part of the podcast.
Yeah.
As Michael Canyon Rosenberg likes to say,
don't forget to watch the first of things.
all right, thanks, guys.
What happened? Is he okay?